I can't stand your kids at times. I can't stand your kids. Like when they're doing amazing things.
They're my kids. They're your kids. Okay.
Yeah, you don't really get here, but I think you do a little bit. But when they're not doing amazing, they're your kids and I can't stand them. Guess what, everybody? We are back. Come on, somebody.
That's right.
I am so excited for the new launch of Everything 2 Equals 1.
Yep, that's right.
Right, we got marriage, community coaching, like monthly coaching where we can connect with married people and single people all around the world.
What else?
We have our podcast.
Yes.
And that's where we are right now on the 2 Equals 1 marriage podcast. And you may be wondering where we've been. We've been working on content.
That's right.
And we've been working on Irene treating me better. I'm joking. So we're back. We want you to like this podcast. We hope you like it. We want you to subscribe to this podcast. We also want you to share this podcast. And you can check out Everything 2 Equals 1 at www.2equals1.com. Spell it all out. Follow Irene now on social media. Irene Rollins, and I am Jimmy Rollins.
That's right.
This is season 4.
Season 4
of the 2 Equals 1 marriage podcast. And what's season 4 all about?
We're talking about marriage taboo topics.
Taboo topics.
Yes.
Topics that most people don't talk about.
Absolutely. And people don't want to, so they avoid it or they pretend like these things don't exist in our relationships and in our marriage.
Yes.
And we hope to highlight in just the listener's mind and in their marriage that you're not alone.
You're not alone.
No.
We're in this together.
We're in this together.
Let's talk about it.
Everyone comes from dysfunctional families. Everyone's got, a past. Everyone's got stuff that they bring into their marriage and baggage. Let's unpack it together.
Absolutely.
Yep.
2 Equals 1. We are helping couples discover their marriage equation, a marriage made one, because we are equally crazy
and equally committed.
And this episode, we get to talk about something that I'm super excited about.
Oh, I'm sure you are.
Because this has been an issue that we don't talk about. Most couples don't talk about.
Yeah.
Because it's at every stage of family and having kids. If you have kids, want to have kids, I'm going to talk about something that most of you won't admit, but I admit it. You know what it is? I can't stand your kids at times. I can't stand your kids. Like when they're doing amazing things.
They're my kids. They're your kids. Okay.
Yeah, you don't really get here, but I think you do a little bit. But when they're not doing amazing, they're your kids and I can't stand them.
Right.
So let's talk about it. So many couples are allowing the children, babies, infants, toddlers, preteens, teens. And if you have adult children, I'm figuring this out. We're gonna have to talk about this together.
Yeah.
Wreck their marriage. They don't know how to communicate. Their whole marriage is about kids.
Yeah.
Like I remember being jealous of our kids because you gave our kids more time, more affection, more boy, you're so cute, and wouldn't even talk to me. You know what I'm saying? But so many couples at various stages of marriage are allowing their kids, because we talked about on another episode, this couple bubble, but it's wrecking communication.
Yeah.
It's wrecking, literally, we're in a stage of our marriage, we're empty nesters, and the only thing we fight about is our kids.
I wouldn't say we even fight about it.
Argue about it. I don't know why you try to make it sound good.
Tension,
no, but when I can't stand the kids, sometimes I can't stand you.
Oh my gosh, really? Is that how you feel?
You like baby them and mom them. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh my goodness. So anyway, this whole, should we start with adult children or the younger years?
Just whatever you want to.
Okay. Well, I would say just overall, I think I have learned early on in the marriage, I was fully consumed with the kids. I was borderline, I was OCD. It had to be done my way. They had to be taken care of my way. Diapers had to be changed my way. They had to be fed my way. And I didn't ask for help. I would get like completely exhausted, have nothing left in the tank for you, and thought I was doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Thought that I should get a badge of honor for that.
Yeah, because you took care of the kids.
Right, because I took care of everying.
Except for Big Daddy.
Except for you and except for myself, really.
Yeah, true.
And so here's the deal. Like it took me learning the hard way that by neglecting my marriage, you were becoming resentful, and it just got that much harder to connect. Because when one of you's full of resentment, and that wall is up. So not only am I exhausted, but now I got to get past the wall just to be close, just to connect. just to keep the fire alive. So it's like, we might as well agree that we could be exhausted together. Share the load.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I needed to do a better job of asking for help. Allowing you to help.
Yeah.
If I remember you did Kayla's hair one time.
Yeah, it was.
And she literally, her hair was pulled back.
I stretched it back because it had to look
tight,
good and tight.
Right.
She's 23. I think that was about 4 years old. She probably still got trauma from that.
Right? I'm telling you, her forehead was just pulled back so tight. I'm sure you could picture it in your mind. But you know what?
Yeah.
Kids didn't take a bath, got into the bed dirty. They survived. They're alive. They're fine. They love their dad. They love Jesus. They love me. We're good. So it's just, I don't know. This whole allowing the kids to overshadow the needs of the marriage is definitely something that I think a lot of people relate with.
Yes.
What did it look like for you, Jimmy?
I think for me, and I think a lot of couples, especially those with young kids. So if you have young kids right now, infants, toddlers, preteens, tune in right here. Like you spend all of your good energy on your children, right? All of your good mental focus on your children, like all of your good time on your children. And then it's time for us to connect, not just sexually, but just at the end of the night, we'll watch a movie together and I turn around and you're asleep. And you're like, oh, we're going to watch a movie together. And then first, pause. We argue about what movie we're going to watch.
Oh, my God.
And then you like, I want to watch a romantic comedy. I hate romantic comedies. I want to watch a movie with people killing each other and war movies. And then we agree on your movie. 5 minutes into the movie that we agreed on that you want to watch, you're asleep. And here's what I'm thinking while you're sleeping. I'm remembering all of the energy that you put into the kids during the day. I was remembering all of how you talk to them so affectionately. And you go all the goo and gaga, and now I get your attitude and I get your dirty look. And I'm like, I can't stand these kids. I blamed it on the kids. Like, I can't stand these kids. And I couldn't stand you at that time. In our marriage, I was like, she loves them more than me, and they wouldn't be here without me. So she must have liked me at some point. Because we had to come together to make these little
Absolutely, absolutely. But here's the deal. It's a tug of war because they can't take care of themselves, especially as infants. They need their parents to feed them and sustain them and keep them alive. Okay. And I just looked at you and I thought, you're a grown man. Take care of yourself. And so anyway, but that wasn't helpful.
Yes.
In the least bit. So
I got a thought.
What?
I got a thought. So the scripture says, raise your children up in the way that they should go. And when they are old, they will not depart from it. Now, I think we can look at that text, that passage of scripture, and talk about when they're old, like old in years. But what if we thought about that passage of scripture when they're older? At each stage, we need to raise them to be self-sufficient. We need to raise them to be able to make decisions. Now, in that, the context of that scripture, what the Hebrew midwives would do, because, they weren't going to hospital, they had midwives, they would take a grape and they would smash the grape in their hand and then put it in the cheek of the infant or the toddler so that they only desired that taste, right? And I feel like, you may say, so what does that have to do with this? We have to be the kind of parents that put a taste in our kids' mouths for each stage of life. In other words, you're going to learn how to walk. You do it with walking, right? You're going to learn how to facilitate decision making. You're going to learn how to eat on your own. You're going to learn how to choose. And we put that kind of taste in their mouth when they are older, when they're graduating stages, so that they can try this thing out for themselves. And many parents are suffering in their relationship with one another because they're trying to be involved, overly involved in every stage of parenting.
That's like being codependent. That's not teaching your kid independence.
Absolutely.
That sounds like failure to launch syndrome in the making.
Yes.
Because if I do it for you, then you still need me.
Yes.
I need to be needed.
Yes.
And rather than embracing and actually feeling like you've won, the win needs to change. Like, I'm winning when my kid says, hey, Mom, I did this by myself.
Wow.
Can you believe it? And we celebrate it together. And it doesn't matter what stage of life you're in, right? Even with the tension that we feel right now from time to time, like you said, it's the only time we ever argue, quote unquote, is our adult children, 23, 21, and 18.
Yes. Do you have any more I don't know about? Or,
no.
Okay, just want to make sure.
Oh my gosh. So here's the deal. The tension comes in when maybe I believe that they don't know how to do that yet. And you believe they should know how to do that by now.
Yeah.
It's almost like they graduated from high school, and this is what I make up about when I observe you have that attitude or express that attitude.
You got attitude.
Not attitude in a bad way. When you express that they should know that by now, and I make up that you're expecting a 18, 21 or 23-year-old that, yes, we have done our best in raising them to be able to do what they need to do at that stage of life, but we're expecting them to behave like a 47 and a 50-year-old, which is us. We've been through a lot of counseling, a lot of life, a lot of wisdom was gained through our life experience. They don't have that yet. Their prefrontal cortex isn't even developed. We're literally their surrogate brains till they turn 26. So I put that expectation in your mouth and that taste in your mouth so you can realize that we need to continue to help them with, build and grow into these human beings that God's created them to be until we can officially launch them. And some of them need longer runways.
And that's what I was going to say. Like, I've heard you say that phrase a lot.
But we argue about it.
We do.
So
did.
So here's the thing. When was that moment when I expressed everything that I just shared right now? I know there was a moment where you were like, oh, she's right. I don't know if I don't put words in your mouth.
Necessarily come into agreement with saying she's right. I think what I would say is there's a balance in, yes, we need to let go, and sometimes we need to lean in. So listen, if you're listening out there, you're parenting each stage. At every stage, there's a let go. And every stage, there's a lean in. And when you let go in one area, you're going to need to lean in the next area. So I remember coming into agreement with you from the aspect of, yes, I do need to, I see why you want to lean in this area. I see why you want me to lean in now. I see why you want me, as with adult children, to still, look at their bank account, to see how they're spending their money, to see, me, I was just ready to just let them go, and it was affecting us. Yeah. Right. Because I'm seeing these little $10 slides and these little cash apps you was giving them. And I'm just like, she bought groceries for a grown man. And I realized something. Okay. If I let go, right, one parent needs to lean in. And so what I started accepting was the fact that it's okay if you lean in some areas that I let go. And there's some other areas that I need to lean in and you need to let go. Yes. And I have done that. Yeah. Like, our son, I haven't been really involved in when he's sorting out how he feels about in relationships with the opposite sex, like with females. And I don't get involved in that as much. Not that I don't want to, but he leans into you. And so I let go. And so I trust that your voice is really what I would say. And we have had moments where we didn't agree. Yes. But I feel like we heard each other out and eventually got to a place where we were okay with agreeing with each other's opinion or the way we would handle things, even though it was different. Now, this whole lean in and let go thing, I think it's 100% on point. We share this and we go back and forth all throughout their kids' lives. But I think our argument has been when it's developmentally appropriate to apply something that maybe another one of our other children got sooner or learned sooner. It's like sometimes they need this longer runway. Like it's a runway into life. So why I might buy groceries is not because I'm being codependent. So once I get a chance to explain it. So I appreciate the fact that you brought it up. At first it was an argument because it was an argument. You made an assumption that I was just being codependent. Would that be accurate? At times. Yes. Yeah.
So then
sometimes my assumption was right, but it's okay.
So what we would do is have a conversation about where I was able to try not to be defensive, but I'm like, and hear you, okay, what you would like is to not have what I'm hearing you say is that you don't want a grown man to have his groceries brought for him. What are we teaching him if we're doing that when he's buying, spending his money frivolously and then you're purchasing that? Yeah. So I get that and I understand and I validated that. But then for me, I wanted you to understand that if our child is going through a stressful season, so emotionally they're in a a difficult place emotionally, dark place sometimes. They're just moved spaces, so they're living in a new place.
Transition.
They're in transition.
Yes.
Like he was sick. There were all these factors. I'm like, that's stressful for us, and we're double his age. Like taking into consideration where the child is at that point in time was something that you began to lean in, after I explained it. You began to accept that that's why you bought him groceries, because clearly he can't get to a grocery store and da-da-da. So I think just being able, but now that I know that it's important to you because you are leaning in with Jaden and I'm letting go, what I do is we came to the agreement that I'm going to come to you and say, hey, Jaden just asked me for such and such, but we push the kids back and say, you have to ask both of us. Sometimes I'll even, one thing that I think is super helpful for us has been that I make sure if it's important to you that in regards to how I give Jaden money or Maya or Kayla, I run it by you first and say, hey, I'm sending them money
It's communication.
Yeah.
What we have discovered as far as like how we do this and how we can get to the place where we're not saying I can't stand your kids or giving ownership away. Basically what this talk is about, like we still have to have our hands on to some level, in every phase, especially when you have adult children. But what helped me is this. I wasn't so ticked off about you helping Jaden. I was more jealous of what you noticed in Jaden, but ignored in me. So like you would notice where his emotional needs were. You would notice that he's depressed. You would notice that he's in a bad, season. And then here I am saying, we're not talking and we're not communicating. Or I'm like, does she even notice I'm frustrated about work? Or I'm frustrated about our finances, or I'm frustrated. And not that I needed you to fix it. But what I think couples struggle with is they are neglecting to notice one another.
That's true.
Based off of how they're focusing on their kids. And I want to just encourage you at every level. Understand those kids are going to leave the house.
That's right.
At one day. And it's going to be me and you. And right now we're exploring this new season of empty nesting where you can't not notice, right? So let's make sure we're not so focused on our children that when they're gone, we don't know each other at all. And I think that for the younger parents, it's going to be how you lean in, determine seasons of leaning in and let go is get free from having a need to be needed. Having a need to be needed. Yeah. I've seen a lot of parents, especially dads with sports, right? They have this need to be needed. And so they allow sports, their kid could have, no athletic ability at all. And they're just trying to, rediscover their years of athletic ability through a kid who wants to play the trombone. Come on, let the boy play the trombone. And then I've seen moms have a need to be needed because they need something to care for, not realizing that you can use that same energy in your marriage. And I think that this is just the beginning. Remember that we're coaching, couples through this, through a year process in our community. If you can sign up for that online at 2equals1.com, we're going to give some more teeth to this. But we wanted to expose that this is an issue playing out in many, many, many relationships.
That's right.
That you can't stand the kids because it's dividing you. Yeah. It's dividing you and your spouse. And we wanted to talk about that a little bit. And I'll be honest with you, we're still working through this. As having adult children.
Yeah. And so, we hope that you listeners, you join the journey with us and just learning how to do this marriage thing with the kids. Don't forget about blended families either. Yes. Like there's so many dynamics that impact the relationship, the marriage. So we got to talk about them and figure out what is going to be the equation for our marriage.
That's right.
And how are we going to get to be two crazy people that are equally committed to make a marriage made one.
Absolutely. So this has been an amazing episode of a podcast. I hope you are sharing this. I hope you are subscribing. I hope you are listening. And I hope you are joining us in the journey. And if you want to get right to the monthly coaching, it's $47 a month.
That's right.
You cannot complain about the marriage that you refuse to work on. 2 Equals 1 Marriage Podcast. We'll see you next time.